A trust is a legal entity that can carry on a business but must also have a trustee. Think of the trustee as the person, in this case, that makes the decisions on behalf of the trust, such as applying for finance. A trust will only have an ABN registered as there is no company involved, there is no ACN. As you will see as we go through the agreement, other than the legal name, the agreement is completed in the exact same way as a sole trader. And the individual trustee must be included as a guarantor, in the same way that you would include the individual if it were an application for a sole trader. So let's now go through the agreement and see how to correctly complete as an individual of a trust. So the legal name must include the trustee's name and the name of the trust. Customer type is ticked as a trust. Also, as we can see, for a trust we need to include the date of the trust. You can either ask the client or do an ABN search and include the date the ABN was created and enter here. Enter the trust's ABN in the ABN box. Remember, there is no ACN given that there is no company involved. And that's the only differences on page 1 for a trust with an individual trustee. Everything else remains the same regardless of customer type. So we'll now look at page 2, being the guarantor details. The trustee is the individual involved in the agreement, so he or she must be included as a guarantor here. Enter the name of the trustee, including their personal home address. You'll also enter their email and contact number. As discussed in part 2 in detail, it is very important that you ask them about their property ownership and record the details here, including the estimated property value and the approximate amount of debt owed on the property, if they do own property at all. As with the sole trader, there is only one individual involved, so there is no guarantor 2 required. Simply leave this section blank. So for an individual trustee of a trust, only guarantor 1 details are required. Now we'll have a look at an individual trustee and how they need to sign the agreement. As the sales rep, you'll sign the financier's acceptance. The trustee signs as customer and writes in their name and the date signed. There is no company involved, so we tick as an individual and be sure to witness their signature. Okay, so now the guarantor acceptance. Remember, whoever was entered as guarantor on page 2 must sign here. The trustee will sign, including their name and the date signed, and you will sign as witness. As you can see, for an individual trustee, the trustee signs in each section exactly the same way as a sole trader. The next page is the business use declaration. The trustee signs, ensuring their name and date is included. Goods acknowledgement delivery and installation completion. The customer details entered here are the same as section 1 on page 1. The trustee signs, including the name and the date signed. As you did on page 3, you tick individual, and then you'll need to witness their signature. Now we're looking at page 5, being the direct debit request. Very straightforward. Enter the legal name and the address, which will be the same as section 1 on page 1. Then complete the customer bank details for their account that they want the payment to be debited from. Normally this will be in the name of the business and the trust. This is the final signature of the document. So the trustee signs to authorise the payment to be debited, and be sure to include the date signed. So as you can see, we entered the individual trustee as the guarantor and then simply had to sign in each section, ticking individual where required.